EZFX Trading Room broadcast for Thursday, October 27th, 2016. My name is Bradley Freed, and for the next 20 to 30 minutes, you'll be joining me for a review of our watch list that we last updated on Tuesday. And we're going to be looking at our open trades, any trades you're watching, and also adding any new trades that have popped up in the interim. If you have any questions, I have a chat room I've prepared on this page for you. You can post your question during the broadcast, and I will answer everyone's question all together at the end. If you're watching the recording and you have a question, you can go to our community menu on this website. You can post to the trading room group. You can send me a private message from the members area. Or you can also just send me an email at ezfxsignal@gmail.com. I'll be happy to answer your question. To get started, let's go ahead and review our watch list from Tuesday. We were watching a Euro Aussie buy, dollar Mexican buy, dollar peso buy, pound Aussie buy, pound Aussie buy, Aussie CAD sell, New Zealand CAD sell, pound yen buy, New Zealand yen sell, pound dollar buy, and euro pound sell. Our new open trades at the time were the Euro Swiss buy, Euro dollar buy, Euro New Zealand buy, dollar CAD buy, and dollar kroner buy. And finally, our trading results were the pound Swiss sell that stopped out at minus 132 pips. We had a win on the New Zealand dollar buy of 105 pips, a stop out of the dollar Sing dollar sell at minus 48 pips, and we closed our Aussie Swiss sell trade early to the signal. All right, so let's go ahead and jump over to the charts, take a look at what we've got, and see where we are. Get started, let's go ahead and look at the dollar peso for one. This I actually sent out a signal yesterday. This trade is open now, and I just wanted to look at where it's gone. So we drew on two trend lines, right? We started on a 4-hour. We drew a more conservative trend line across these wicks. That was the main one I was interested in, but we also had a tighter trend line that we'd revised across these wicks here. So you could have taken an entry here, which would have been fine. We didn't have a triangular moving average color change at that point in time, but later that came after it cleared the second trend line. That's where I got in with a larger stop loss. The risk to reward ratio targets, the first one is the monthly pivot at 19.1749. The second one is a weekly pivot at 19.53158. And currently, we've seen on the 1-hour chart, we have class B divergence and a sell bubble. On the 4-hour chart, we have nothing like that. So I'd almost say let's just watch it on the 4-hour chart. Don't worry about what you see on the 1-hour chart. This is something we're going to be holding into for the longer haul. But I do think we can get back to this monthly pivot up here, at least. So on our list then, peso is an open trade. And it is a signal trade. And I'm just going to say let's watch it on the 4-hour. Next, we have a Euro Swiss buy. Let's see, what else do we have that I haven't talked about yet? Euro New Zealand isn't there. Euro Swiss is there. Euro Swiss, we actually sent it as a signal trade. So I'm going to add that to the list here. So we had a breakout that gave us our trade signal. Then it retraced down. Now it's retraced back up above the trend line that it broke. And it's kind of consolidating. I'm expecting it to rise again, of course. Our profit targets for risk to reward purposes, because we got in up here, our last month's monthly pivot. That's this one at 1.0914. With a final profit target at the weekly pivot at 1.094. And that trade is now open. And you can actually still get into it with those targets. The risk to reward ratio is still there. You can even at this point use this month's monthly pivot as a target. So, or you can use the 50% in the monthly as target 1, target 2. There's a whole variety of options you have if you get in at this point in time. The euro dollar, this is a new one I sent out as a signal. It broke the line here, dropped. It's reached the high that it made at the entry again, so it's a little bit in the money. We're watching this on the 4-hour chart. We had Class A divergence, a trend line break. If you go to the 1-hour chart, though, we had even more. Had a buy bubble and a triangular moving average color change. We can actually go ahead and manage this on the 1-hour chart. Initial profit target is a weekly pivot at 1.1047. Final profit target is up here at the weekly pivot at 1.1179. So those 2 weekly pivots. There is this month's monthly pivot above, but I'm trying to stay within below the 78.6% Fibonacci retracement level. As we get closer, we could alternatively set this as our profit target, but for now, I'm going to go ahead and use those 2 weekly pivots and just be a little bit more conservative. So I just want to add this to our list as a signal trade. Euro dollar buy is now open. 1-hour chart, and it is a signal trade. That's the next one is Euro Newsy. Then this is still open. We got in back here. It's been open for a while. And it moved sideways for a while, moved up, moved down, moved up. Now it's made a higher high, which is nice. It's getting closer to this month's monthly pivot. Our initial profit target is the Fibonacci 50% retracement level on this move here. And final profit target at the weekly pivot at 1.55565. And that's open and doing just fine. Next, we have a dollar CAD buy open. This was not a signal trade. This has hit its first profit target, so we moved our stop to break even and taken partial profit. We did get an opposite Class A signal here. I'm thinking dollar strength is going to carry this higher, so I'm just going to hold on to it. And we're going to see if we can get to our profit extension target at 1.354888. That's 2 supply zones up, but I think we can probably get there. And dollar kroner is still open. This dropped a little bit, but we still haven't had a sell bubble. I think it's just, this is just trend movement. So I think this can rise again and we will get to this initial profit target. I'm just holding on to this and continuing to manage it as normal. So that is still open. Now we can start to look at some of the things that are setting up or have set up. The dollar pound yen trade is set up. We have a trend line break here. We have a color change. We have Class B divergence. We don't have any bubbles, but that is a signal we can go ahead and get in this trade. Keep in mind, though, that this is a very large stop on this trade. So in order to make it manageable, I would put the stop right below these wicks here. That's still probably going to require, if you get in right now, 176 pip stop. I think that's acceptable in this case. Initial profit targets would be the 50% or the monthly pivot. Final profit target is the 78.6% fib level. Go ahead and mark those in blue. And this is one I want to send out as a signal trade. I think as the election winds down and as the result looks more certain, we're going to see a lot of these things that have been having no direction start to take direction, and they're going to provide some big opportunities for us. So pound yen, buy. It's going to be a new trade, meaning it's ready to go. in this case. Euro Aussie, this took off, gave us a nice trend line break here. You would have had to have put a stop below the recent low. I did not send this out as a signal trade just because I'm in so much Euro stuff already. 146 pip stop on the move. If we adjust our fibs after the last trade down, then we can have an initial profit target at the 50% fib level, or you can keep the old levels from the previous trade. But I would suggest just being a little bit more conservative, and we'll go ahead and use the 78.6% and the 50%. And if you'd gotten in down here, now it's too late, but if you'd gotten in here, 148 pips for 184, that's greater than a 1-to-1, and then 370 to the final profit target. So the Euro Aussie is open, but it's not a signal trade. And we're monitoring that on the 1 hour. Pound Newsy, Pound Aussie. We're finally getting a buy signal on these on the latest trend line we drew. We don't have a triangular moving average color change yet for the Pound Newsy, but we do for the Pound Aussie. This line is turning blue. The thing here is still the size of the required stop. So I would move the stop level right to the bottom of this candle here. Don't even worry about a gap, because if it goes that far, it's over anyway. So even then, if you got in right now, the required stop is 276 pips. Initial profit target at the 50% fib level. Actually, let me adjust these fibs a little bit. So not quite right. Get right to the previous low. So initial profit target at that first, at the 50%. Final profit target at the monthly pivot, which is in front of the 78.6%. That gives us a great risk-reward ratio. As I said, 272 pips of stop for 740, 738, and 1,142. Keep in mind, these are pound trades. We've waited a long time for confirmation, but they may fail. So remember to size your trades. Don't risk more than 1% on these trades. And that may mean that you're taking one micro lot. And it may also mean, depending on your account size, that you can't take the trade because there's not a size small enough to take it. In that case, you're going to just not take this trade at all. But this is available to you. Pound Newsy, very similar. We're still waiting for that triangular moving average color change, which looks like it's going to happen. When it does happen, this one might be a little bit more reasonable. And it's still 250 pips. So once you have all the confirmation, I would put the stop right at the bottom of this candle here. And that might make it a little better. 220, 218, 222. That's still going to give you a pretty small trade size. 50% to the 50% fib level of right now is 295. That's greater than 1-to-1 to this 78.6 is 600. That's greater than 2-to-1. So that would satisfy our entry requirements. I'm going to put this as a new trade. Just keep in mind also that the pound is still a mess. That I think it's has further to fall. I would only take one of these if you take one at all. Just be conservative. Pound Aussie, Pound Newsy, Aussie CAD. Aussie CAD is one we've been watching. It's finally gotten back to this trend line we drew here, this very conservative trend line. and it has a sell bubble, some class B supply zones above. If we got a sell signal on it, it's not too bad. It would be only 122 pips of stop, which is still acceptable. We need to adjust our fib levels for this trade. Jump over to the 4-hour chart. So we actually have a very long trend here. We can draw retracements against. That's our fib right there. Let's delete those fibs. And we can either draw a trade space from here to here, which is more conservative, or we can draw it all the way from here to here. I would say let's go more conservative because the width of this would be huge. It's probably just not realistic. It's like 900 pips or something like that. It's almost 1,000 pips. Let's use this most recent move here to define our trade space from the low to the high. Switch back down to the 1 hour. Just adjust a little bit more. And then we can set our targets at a 50% for the initial target. There's a monthly pivot below as well. And for the final target, 78.6, which looks like a long way on here, but you have to remember the 4-hour chart, this is the move. This is one big move that happened. Now you could even use this smaller portion here, but I think in context, this is reasonable, more than reasonable. So I'm still watching that. That's not quite where it needs to be yet, but if we get a break of this trend line, then I'd be interested in trading that in the sell direction. So let's go ahead and move the Aussie CAD sell and make it a new trade on our list as well. And we're also looking at this. We're looking at this in a 1-hour chart, I think. Newsy CAD, this is another one we've been watching. I think it's actually looking pretty good right now. It's made a lower low. Class A supply zone, no bubble. The only thing we're missing is a triangular moving average color change. If that happens, then I'd be interested in selling this. We've had a pretty nice clear move on this pair to trade into. Fibonacci from the low made here to the recent high defines the trade space, gives us targets at the 50% and the 78.6% levels, provided that the risk-reward ratio is acceptable. At this point in time, talking about 54 pips to 95 and 177, that would be acceptable, but we're still waiting for one more point of confirmation. When that does happen, then we can think about going ahead and taking the trade. But I'm going to go ahead and move this as a new trade to this other list. CAD yen buy, that's also looking pretty reasonable at this point. It did break out, broke out again. This triangular moving average is still red. If that turns blue, then we could think about the trade. The only problem we have is the risk to reward ratio, right? If we get in down here, then we had a good one, but we don't right now. So for example, if we got in here, that would be 72 pips for 43. That's just not going to work. The 78.6 would be 90. So you'd have to think about it in terms of, is this a larger retracement? Is this probably going to go a lot further than this? If we look at the daily chart or even the 4-hour chart. Actually, we're looking at the 4-hour chart. Or is this just a temporary swing? It's going to drop again. So I don't know the answer to that. I don't think anybody does. But I personally don't like the structure of this trade. So I'm thinking about just staying away from it for now. I'll leave it on the watch list. So CAD yen buy. And we're watching that, I think, on the 4 hours, probably the best place to watch it. New Zealand sell. This trade is also still set up. We had a class A supply zone here, a breakdown, and then a retracement back to the zone. If this triangle moving average flips again, we could definitely get into it. We can also start to watch it on the 4-hour chart and see if we get a signal. But I think for right now, I just want to leave this on the watch list. It's just not real clear to me what's going to happen with this, as opposed to some of the others. Okay, next one is pound dollar buy. This is starting to set up. So we have a more conservative trend line. If that's broken and the triangular moving average changes color, we have a buy bubble over here. This is all on the 4-hour chart because I've been more conservative about watching these pound trades. That's why I'm on the 4-hour chart. Still a probably pretty big required stop on this trade, even if it closed above here. If we went down here, that's 200 pips. That's really not so bad, though, compared to some of the others, right? So that's actually a good thing. Pretty clear trade space. We have a class A zone up here we can draw our fibs from to define the width of our trade space and some of the possible targets. 50% retracement is a good target. Can set one there. And the (78.6%) in front of that is a monthly pivot. Let's use that. But still waiting for final confirmation on this one. However, it's really almost there. So I'm going to go ahead and make this a new trade. Even though I don't like these pound pairs, I'll probably take one of these just to add it in, just in case there is a healthy retracement for some reason that we can't see right now. So like I said, I still think there's a lot of risk on the pound. I still think there's a lot of potential for it to move down. However, these are available to you. These are producing valid signals. So if I was to take one, I would only choose one: pound yen, pound Aussie, pound New Zealand, pound dollar. There's 4 of them here. I would pick one and leave the others behind, because there's a lot of risk that this is going to collapse and go further at any time. And it's just not worth taking a 4% hit just because you get excited and want to take a bunch of pairs on some new signals on a pair that you haven't been able to trade in that direction in a long time. So let's be conservative. Euro pound, that's the last one we're looking at. This has continued to kind of move lower. It hasn't really dropped. It's still available to you as a trade to get into. I really don't trust this at all, especially because we have the euro rising on other pairs. But you know, if you set your stop up here, it's 136 pips for, at this point in time, 189 at the 50% and 358 at the monthly pivot. Pretty nice, nice setup. It's just not moving very well, is it? It doesn't have a lot of momentum. It kind of dropped, and it's been creating these wicks up, which I think means it wants to retrace up. So I would really advise against trading this, to be honest. I'm just going to leave it on our watch list. I'm not even going to make it a new trade, even though it is, technically. I just remember it is a pound pair, even though it has a euro in it. So we already have several pound pairs we're looking at as potential new trades. Again, I would reiterate, pick one if you take one at all. And that's it. Those are all our updates for now. I want to go ahead and go back to our trading room and see if we have any questions, any people attending live. We do not today. If you have questions and you're watching this recording, please contact me at ezfxsignal@gmail.com. You can also go to our community menu. You can click this link here, and this will take you to our trading room group. And when you go to the group, you can do a lot of cool things. You can post to the group. You can post a question. You can also click this link here, and you can post a screenshot of a chart. So if you take a screenshot of your chart that goes to your question, or you have a trade you want to talk about, or even if you just want to celebrate a victory or something that you've done that you thought worked out really well, you can post that chart and share with the group here, ask questions, anything you want to do. You can also send me a private message. We do have a private messaging system on this website. It's email is also convenient. This is a little bit more just us, just for this website, which I think is pretty cool. So go to the members list. You can search members. If you can't see me, search for EZFX. Here I am. You'll find that I have a private message button on my box here, just like you do. And you can just click that. And when you do, you can send a message to me, and I'll get an alert in my inbox, and I'll be able to answer you via our private message system. So you can also use this system to ask me questions about your trading. That's all the updates for today. I think we have a lot of cool stuff going on this week. It looks like there's a lot of big shifts happening in the market, which is always an opportunity for us, especially after we've had long trends in one direction. So do be conservative. Do go ahead and observe your 5% portfolio limit and your 1% per trade risk limit. I would go ahead and do that. And if you have any questions, as always,